me today is Wendy Anderson. She's a senior counsel at Palantir and former senior Pentagon official. And I also have the Admiral William McRaven. He is a retired United States Navy four-star admiral who served as the 9th commander of the United States Special Operations and is a member of the newly formed Federal Advisory Board. Thank you both for joining me. It's so great to have you on Floor Talk.
It's great to be with you.
Thank you. All right, so Admiral, you've served in the military for 37 years and used a variety of tech projects or products. Why join Palantir's advisory board? And perhaps most importantly, why now?
Yeah, thanks, Judy. Well, one, my guys used Palantir both in Iraq and Afghanistan. And frankly, watching how the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines used it for everything from taking a look at predictive analysis on the threats from the enemy to being able to kind of visualize some of our toughest threat problems out there, really made me a fan of the Palantir platform. And then, of course, I have watched them over the last several years as they have gone from private to the IPO. And frankly, it is their involvement with particularly the Department of Defense and the broader federal government that I have always admired. I've liked the culture of the company. And frankly, when I was asked to join the Federal Advisory Board, it didn't take me long to say yes.
Okay, now, Wendy, you've seen both sides of things from your time at the Secretary of Defense's office to the work you do now in private industry. What's at stake if the government gets these problems wrong?
Judy, nothing less than our national security is at stake. We Palantir and also we, the national security agencies, right, I speak in my former role, are committed to keeping the United States technologically superior. Why? Well, because first and foremost, we want to be able to translate that superiority into military edge, into intelligence community edge, into homeland security edge. So whether we're assisting in counterterrorism operations or helping plan for near-peer competition, for example, with regards to Russia and its invasion into Ukraine, Palantir provides cutting-edge technology to the United States Armed Services and our allies. And look, here's the thing. In an era of rapidly evolving threats and geopolitical complexity, I think which we probably in the early years of this century would not have quite expected it to look as it does, decision makers and warfighters have got to have software capabilities that can only come from the commercial marketplace, and Palantir is thrilled to be a part of that community.
All right, now, Admiral, how can the U.S. government and the military especially learn from and work more effectively with the tech industry?
Yeah, well, the military has always been innovative. I think some people will question that, but the fact of the matter is you go back and look at the history, particularly of the U.S. military, and every time that there is a war or a pause in a war, there is kind of great transition. There is a great opportunity to innovate. The problem is today, if you're going to innovate, you're going to have to innovate very, very quickly. And this means understanding the data, because as Wendy said, we have moved away from this kind of counterinsurgency fight, the counter terrorism fight, and now we are into near peer competition. And consequently, the data becomes really the gold, if you will, for how we're going to invest in our future in terms of the military and technology. So we have to understand the data. We have to understand how the data applies to the problem set in a way that we've never had to before.
Now, Wendy, we see many companies that are starting advisory boards. What was it about these individuals that made you and Palantir want them on the team? And how will the board help guide the business?
Well, I'll tell you, Judy, we are really living in some challenging times, and we want and need to have the best of the best. Bill McRaven is a perfect example of that. We're living in a time, as I mentioned earlier, that most of us could not have imagined in 2000 that we would have been living in. 9/11 and the aftermath, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, a global pandemic that continues, right? And most recently, a really complicated global geopolitical scene with tensions between superpowers at their highest point since the Cuban Missile Crisis. So this advisory board reaffirms Palantir's commitment to the United States government and really puts these defense, intelligence, and homeland security professionals, who, by the way, represent collectively approximately 230 years of experience in national security right at the intersection of Palantir and our United States government partners.
Okay, now a question for both of you. The US military and the tech sector are very different. What are some lessons the military can learn from working with the government and vice versa? Admiral?
Yeah, I'm not sure I would agree with that assessment that we are that different. Again, back to the point about innovation. I mean, the tech sector is looking at innovating all the time. The military is looking at innovating all the time. And really today it is about the speed of innovation. And that's where we, again, the military can learn from the tech sector is how quickly they move in terms of adapting, adjusting, this kind of fail fast. And obviously there's some things that we in the military don't want to fail fast on. When you have a man or a woman in the loop, this becomes something that you have to take at a more pedestrian pace. But when it comes to software and when it comes to analyzing data and recognizing how that data kind of displays the threat, you can move very, very quickly. We've got to learn that from the tech sector.
Well, I agree with what Admiral McRaven said wholeheartedly. And look, despite all of the differences, there's been so much of a increased set of conversations, over the last 10 to 15 years, spurred by innovation that was really compelled by the circumstances of the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts. This particular group, as Admiral McRaven said, really understand how advanced technologies are profoundly shifting the national security landscape and really the character of war. And what we've got to be able to do as a defense tech, and defense community is to figure out how to more effectively translate these cutting edge technologies into operational advantage for our government agencies and partners. I mean, look, we are really excited about being a part of continuing this conversation. We need each other. One of us can't do it alone. The complexity of these problems is too profound. And so we're just really thrilled to be able to bring about this amazing group of national security leaders who know the Defense Department and the national security agencies inside out, and who really help us, I think, translate better to each other what we need to do collectively.